were a cavalcade of Hollywood video game adaptations at that time.
I guess. I mean, this
It
was
felt like
Uwe Boll's heyday back then, when he was in the midst of House of the Blood Rain and all the other crap that he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And around, I mean, Doom came out.
Silent Hill came out. The Resident
Evil
Evil series was in its beginning throws.
Yeah. Hollywood was kind of trying this shit out.
It was starting to throw. But, you know, we haven't done this panel. In the past, we just sit there and talk about how awesome we are and how bad Hollywood is. But Hollywood's still in business. So, but anyways, we thought it might be fun here at Extra MAGFest 8.5.
As we call it.
I mean, if I say anything incomprehensible, just forget it, just whatever. Because incomprehensible things are going to be said. We thought it would be fun to bring this back and kind of examine for the first time what has happened since the last time we did this panel, which we target it being, I don't know, 6-ish years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
And now, basically. So, you guys see any movies lately?
As we talked about on the email, I believe you're really the only one that has seen video game movies in those, 6 years. I dropped off of the Resident Evil series after 3.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the second Silent Hill. I didn't watch Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
There's probably some other we saw some of Chun-Li on TV, but that's...
Yeah, I'm trying to think what's happening. There was the Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li movie.
Yeah, I saw half of that.
Right.
Well, I think we talked about Dead or Alive. Oh, no, that was Tekken.
No, that's pretty recent.
It was Tekken. I'm thinking of Tekken. Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. Wait, which one had Kevin Nash in it? No, that was Dead or Alive. Kevin Nash was in Dead or Alive. He was the older wrestler dude.
Okay.
Okay, maybe we didn't talk about that since our last panel, but it feels like we still lived on Eaton Street when we watched that horrible movie.
You and Rory, I believe, watched that.
Yeah. That wasn't good.
Was that the one that came out on May 19th?
No, that was See No Evil. That's not a video game movie.
Where did you pull that from?
Wrestlers.
From calendars.
No, okay, so I guess there was Dead or Alive since we last did this panel.
You watched some of them. I mean, if we count YouTube series, which we're obviously not going to count them all, but the Mortal Kombat series is very popular.
Yeah.
The Street Fighter Legacy series is popular, which I don't think any of us have actually watched.
No, I haven't watched it.
Which I heard was actually pretty good.
Okay, cool. Oh, we should go watch that.
Yeah.
We'll go out here, say about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, but that's... God. I still count that under parodies.
Okay.
But... Yeah.
But is that really Hollywood? That's still independent. Well, you were saying YouTube.
Yeah. It's kind of that quotation mark indie where it's with a larger budget, I suppose. Yeah. But that is questionable around, I guess.
Yeah.
But either
or. The land, I mean, and especially right now, it seems like we're in a kind of a bit of a lull of Hollywood producing video game movie content, other than Need for Speed.
I would say.
Well, I guess the stuff coming out, I guess I should say. Nothing is coming out, but a lot of stuff is in pre.
Yeah, there's a precipice of stuff that people are excited could possibly
there are
be.
fucking specialty Oreos everywhere this year.
I will in a second. No, there's video game movies made by quality filmmakers who have grown up with video games that could be the first breakthrough video game Hollywood movies. Warcraft being World of Warcraft from Duncan Jones, who made Moon, who's Bowie's kid. You've got the Uncharted movie, you've got the Metal Gear Solid movie, if that follows through, with Jordan Voight Roberts, who made an awesome movie called Kings of Summer. There's a lot of things sort of out there that could be the things that I think we're beyond the crap. I think we're beyond the utter shit storm. Because because there's people that grew up going, well, we can't make that. And I think that's kind of what happened with like the Bruckmeyer Batman movies, the 3 and 4. It's just well, we're gonna make comic book movies, but we're not gonna make them, laughing stock that was those movies, or else we're gonna tank.
Maybe it might be more accurate to say we might be.
No, No, there's always gonna be more shit, but there's a lot of potential of a breakthrough. And we're at the point where people aren't trying to like look at video games and see how they can make money off of the things that people like looking at versus the feel of a video game and what was actually good about that video game. From people that grew up actually playing games because you can't avoid it anymore. Like there's not a generation that didn't grow up with video games that is in the money making business.
The money making demographic.
Right.
Scorsese.
Yeah.
Woody Allen.
Well,
Money making, never mind.
yeah.
Well, no, I think in the last 15 years, the adapting an existing property into a summer blockbuster movie has sort of been codified and one might say homogenized, but I think that's a question for another panel. So that attempt has been made with video games so many times, but I think the difference is that it always begins with someone saying, we can make money from this. And now what happens after that is, I think with more established forms of media, with the more established forms of media that we've seen in the last 15 years that have become turned into the annual summer blockbuster, comic books, fantasy novels. Basically, it's comic books and fantasy novels. You have had these creatives who really adore those things and really do want to take care of them. Whereas with video games, it begins with the idea of, we need to make money off of this, but then the follow-through gets fumbled because it's not a priority project. It gets shuffled around to this director, that director. It gets this screenplay. Yeah, we can make this work. All right, let's pass this around. And yeah, so I think that's only half of it. I think the other half of it is at the same time, in parallel, video game narratives.
He was too close.
Video game narratives have become more similar to film narratives. It's easier to adapt The Last of Us into a movie than it is Mortal Kombat. Even Mortal Kombat has a deep mythos, obviously, but it's not a this happens, then this happens, then this happens narrative.
That's fair enough. I have a follow-up to that though. I mean, like if you're adapting, if the video game is itself a narrative, what's the point of transferring it to film?
Yeah, I agree with Steve on that too. Oh, did I cut you off? I couldn't tell. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You go your way.
Because the best adaptations have some. I just want to see that reason that they took this book and told it as a visual story. Like, there's always the line of, yes, be truthful to the source material, no question. But you have to be like, why wouldn't I just read A Song of Fire and Ice versus watch Game of Thrones?
Okay, so my question is why are you so interested in comic books as source material as opposed to video games? I mean,
Marvel has its own studio.
Well, because fiscally it works, and I think because comic books have been around 70, 80 years, at least stuff like Spider-Man, Superman.
So you're telling me I'm gonna have to wait till 40 for a good Zelda movie?
No.
Comic books also have the benefit of having, they don't just have one narrative. You know, if you have a property with a big history, that story has been told in so many different ways that you can get a creative that can be like, well, I want to tell this story this way. There's already an accepted precedent for that.
Okay, everybody knows that I'm a Zelda freak, so let me go to that point right now. There are 14 different Zelda stories, and they're all 3 elements, and you collect them, and then you stab something.
Yeah,
Why can't we make that a movie?
But hold on, like, you have to, and it's weird with an interactive story because you still have to go with like, what was that, what was the big feeling you got out of Zelda? And it's that feeling of like exploration, of reward, and those are hard things to come across. For a film. Well, and why would you tell that story I mean, yes, the story's there, but those games are about that feeling of freedom, of exploration and reward. So why would you tell that as a film? Well, because you have to have a story. So what about that story can you?
I think you can do that visually.
And you can do that visually.
I think in a visual medium like film, I think there are definitely ways to get that impression. And actually, Sean, I think Zelda is kind of a prime. I mean, when you put it that way, yeah, Zelda's sort of a prime candidate. There are so many storytellers and directors that could take that basic structure that has been told and retold and be like, I'm going to do it in a purely visual way.
Okay, so I played Metroid Other M. If you cut out the gameplay, like, you've got a movie right there.
Actually, that's a good point.
Would
Anybody pay a full price, let's say matinee movie ticket, to go see a playthrough of Last of Us? Okay. Like that's
And that's why I said, like, why would you make that into a movie? And I'm interested to see what comes of The Last of Us, because, yeah, there's the easy money grabbing, one, I know that name, and two, little rush of, ooh, you know, like, I'm seeing it live action, which we've all, I think, had through the years and, you know, mostly disappointed with, but still, you know, like when you see someone in that costume for the first time, it's still pretty cool.
But movies don't have to be live action. I mean, there's been animated films since at least like 2010.
Yep. But those aren't, if you want to go with money making, that's not what you're going to do. And ultimately, it's still a business. You have to look at the business line.
And that's why it's a perfect element. The person already developed the game. All you have to do is pay somebody to play through it, do some quick edits, and you're done. You don't have to film.
Steve clearly never spent a lot of time editing.
But again,
you're gonna edit any live action stuff that you film anyway, so why wouldn't you just go for the quick buck at that?
Well, because that's the opposite of my point is why would I watch a movie when I can just play the game? Why would I watch it?
I can't beat Catherine. It's a great story. I can't beat it.
Well, then go on YouTube and watch it.
Well, that's stealing.
No.
It's because the action sequences in a game are too visually static for a passive audience. There's no mass market audience for 15 to 20 minute long segments of a camera behind a person's back.
And I'll
Rifling
agree
through
that
their
it might not look
inventory.
so well if you're watching StarCraft. In that
You're not commercialized.
No, definitely not.
Right.
That's the way that it's becomes called on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually see other people watching other people play games.
Yeah.
He's huge.
Have like PewDiePie.
Yeah. But
Being
people
awesome,
pay for the
privilege,
privilege.
like
Yeah.
a new thing that's like.
Well,
you
that's
celebrate
in a way it's
bigger.
like reading.
Streaming, watching people play games is a little bit bigger.
Why would I watch a video version of Romeo and Juliet when I could just read the clip notes?
Yes.
You know, I get the idea of the story really quickly. It's still in that medium, but
Experiencing.
well, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And you know, I'd love for us to get to a point where we are with books where it's just, you know, maybe in the background it says adapted from a novel, or even, it could even be sold from, but it's not just like, oh, it's a book movie.
Right.
You know, it has that stigma of it's gonna feel like this. No, it's from another source, and they saw a spark for a good movie out of this idea, so they're gonna tell it in a different way and interpret it through many different eyes. Tim, anything to add on the crap fest you've watched in the last 6 years?
Yeah, I was about to say, let's hear about some crappy video game movies.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
How is that Jake Gyllenhaal as the Prince of Persia?
What's up?
Yeah.
he's pretty not. Jake Gyllenhaal's not very
Persian? No.
I'd say.
Oh, that's
He
why.
does have a reputation with time traveling though.
Beef sausage or pepperoni chicken?
Pepperoni chicken. Hell yeah.
Pepperoni or chicken? There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I eat pizza.
Tim, talk about your crabs.
Man,
Thank you.
I'm not whipping pizza at the audience, BT dubs. So,
We tell the same story with like
Yeah.
water elements.
Okay.
no, so the Prince of Persia movie got delayed a year. And this seems to happen more frequently with movies these days, where they'll be set to come out and the studios look at the movie and go, crap.
Well, here's, on the other side of that, the problem is everything is so transparent. Like, this has happened through years and years and years.
No, it's just that now we know.
We know. So we get to see this process of crap over crap over crap.
Yeah. So, like, especially these days, they'll take it back, do analysis, and pick up shots. But I think more or less just try to 3D-ify the movie, add some more special effects, try to make it better in some way, but or otherwise profitable. So, Prince of Persia was one of those movies that was supposed to come out and it got delayed an entire year, even though the movie was done. And it was a Disney movie. It was positioned like on Memorial Day weekend. It was supposed to be like a big adventure franchise, perhaps, maybe taking place, the place of the, or at least could be offered on alternating years to the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
Well, and I mean, like, Disney has been trying to just have these clear money grab properties. Like, because I think of Prince of Persia, or I think of The Lone Ranger when you mentioned Prince of Persia, and, I heard that movie wasn't as bad as I probably think it is, but when you see a movie and you're just like, oh, they're trying to get you to see this fucking movie.
Yeah, and like where it's positioned and how it's marketed and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, Prince of Persia is a pretty bland movie. And God, it was years ago that I saw it, but I remember that I really actually liked the ending because it had some kind of funny time travel twist to it that actually fit in well thematically with like the original Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, which is what the movie was based on. And they had a weapon that like one of the characters had that resembled the dagger tail from Two Thrones, the third one, but that was about it. I've seen 2 more Resident Evil movies. Who's up on the Resident Evil franchise?
The most recent one actually kind of blew my mind because it's incoherent.
Oh, it is!
I love it.
Ridiculous.
They reduced it down to the level not of narrative but of just set piece. And it has this really harebrained conceit of like being in a kind of simulator.
Well, hang on, before we get to that one, there's the one before that one.
Post-apocalyptic one, right?
Yeah, there's the post-apocalyptic one.
Like Road Warrior-esque.
Is that the one where they're
No, that was more 3, which was Extinction.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one.
That was the last one I watched. Because
Yeah,
that
4
was,
was Apocalypse.
Anything
The most recent one was like sort of Matrix.
I know that, but what was it called?
Retribution?
At that point.
Maybe, we'll go with that.
Anyway, I've seen all of them, but they kind of muddle in my head because they're.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, 4 was the one that opened with the army of clone Alices going to attack that facility in Tokyo.
is Mila Jovovich still having fun with that franchise? Because that was one of the few things.
Thank you.
That was one of the things that actually I enjoyed about that movie. It's just like, clearly she's having fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Being
Well, they
a dumbass.
actually they had to delay production of the newest one because she's pregnant. But yeah, she's all about this stuff. But yeah, there was the one. There was Afterlife, which ended up with Alice trying to track down Kmart, which is one of her friends from the 3rd movie. But there's all these people just trying to scrape by in this zombie-infested West Coast town, like following this signal, which is coming from a boat in like San Francisco Bay or something of that nature. Of course, they get there, and it's an umbrella facility. And like this movie, Rory and I were watching it, and 3D.
Wait,
might as well. Might as well.
I've got 2 eyes that can handle that perception.
Absolutely, all day long.
Big shot.
And so it's this kind of dull, like, going through all this. And then, like, at the end of the movie, like, they save all the people who've been drawn to this carrier. And here in comes the Umbrella, like, air fleet, ready to attack all these people. Just, Umbrella, what the hell are you doing in these movies? Everyone on the planet is, like, dead at this point. There's zombies everywhere. And
They're still trying to make a buck.
I just couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, what is even going on? And then, Brett, you have a question?
No. Yeah. If you have something that you have to say it to the whole class.
So then you have the fifth movie, which takes place in this Umbrella simulator, which was supposed to demonstrate what would happen.
It's the Saints Row 4 of Resident Evil.
Yeah. Basically, if the T-virus is unleashed in various locales, and like
See, it sounds like Assassin's Creed to me when you say simulator.
well, it's just like every single character that existed in the franchise previous
It's resurrected as a digital.
was able to come back as like a clone character, and there
Michelle
were
Rodriguez needs work.
yeah, absolutely.
And she came back
Every
in
action
Assassin's
movie. For a while at least.
They went back.
But yeah, this one wraps up with them meeting up with Wester at the White House to make the last stand against the zombie hordes that he made. And so theoretically, the next movie will be the last movie. It's just that, yeah, the franchise has gone.
The last chapter.
I appreciate the Resident Evil movie franchise on some level just because it has gone so off the rails of anything that makes any sense to those games other than like throwing in a character.
It just has a magic way of making money overseas, which I totally love because we get these batshit crazy. Because it reminds me of like
They keep making more and more money. That's what's insane.
yeah. Like, it just reminds me of like Freddy movies growing up. It's just this franchise that just keeps going. So.
The same thing could happen in the game series.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, this is, and there's been a lot of, you know, this is what happens to game series in general, but this is why people are kind of talking about like, you know, we've sort of come to the saturation point with comic book movies. It doesn't mean we're sick of them. It just means that there's a lot of them, and there is a Marvel formula. Even with Guardians of the Galaxy, which I really like, still falls into the group finds a MacGuffin, goes search for it, you know, finds evil magic tied to Avengers, the end kind of thing.
Spoilers.
Spoiler.
Yeah,
And it's with so many comic book movies, people are kind of looking for the next, you know, thing to grab their attention. And a video game movie done right will really open the floodgates. And me and Ford just had this side. Assassin's Creed is another big one with Magneto heading that up as a I can't think of Michael.
No, the other Magneto.
Fassbender.
Yeah, Michael Fassbender.
Fassbender not only as like as an actor but as a producer, as a fan of the series that also sees the fiscal, you know,
Possibility.
yeah, of the series. It's bound to happen. Whether we have a load of crap this round or not, it's right about to happen.
Okay, like what is actually like
material, and you have all of the past.
I was gonna say, Luis, what do we actually have on deck right now to potentially see within the next few years?
I already sort of listened.
Ascreed 1. Assassin's Creed, sorry, that's me, shorthand, Ascreed.
Ascreed, I meant Uncharted, which I don't remember who's in charge of. Last of Us is very close because that has a lot of attention.
Ratchet and Clank's real.
Oh yeah, the animated Ratchet and Clank,
Yeah,
and animated
animated
Sly
Sly.
movie. Those are kind of weird.
But you
science
got
things.
Arya Stark got a lot of attention. I don't remember her.
Maisie Williams,
Maisie
or
Williams.
something of that nature.
Um, Playing Ellie. in
She just
The
met
Last of
Annie
Us.
recently.
Yeah, and if they don't get Josh Brolin, it'll be fucking sad for Last of Us. But World of Warcraft is a big one. As I said, Duncan Jones made a really cool movie called Moon, and a pretty good movie that was called Source Code, which I don't remember now.
What is the World of Warcraft movie going to be about?
The thing about, okay, so I haven't played World of Warcraft. It's he wants to do like sort of the origin of the wars. So the idea is to not tell a story that's in the game, but see where all of it sort of came from. So explore the world in a different place. So sort of, yeah.
So
like,
why orcs versus humans?
Why orcs versus humans? Like, and it's going to follow both sides. He wants to make the orcs very relatable, and he wants to make the and he wants to see, you know.
So
I was gonna say, I never would have thought until Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out that, you know, good Planet of the Apes reboots, and it seems to me the same sort of thing. You can humanize
Right.
work both sides.
Actually, funny you bring up Rise of the Planet of the Apes because the way that they handled that movie, I think it's the way that he's sort of doing Warcraft. Like he started that before Rise came out, obviously, but having the sympathetic foe and just having that strong like back and forth and just like why are we at war, and that sort of exploration of it's the world you know, but this is the interesting human relatable story.
Is the Halo in development movie dead, or is that still like a?
I want to say that that's tied to one of the streaming services.
Oh, like a Netflix.
Yeah, like a Netflix, Hulu, Yahoo, who knew?
Well, let's
yeah,
say-
6 seasons in the
Let's
movie.
say Microsoft has been doing some Halo live action stuff attached to Xbox Live, so it's
Right.
Okay.
Well, and PSN is doing
Yeah.
Powers, which I'm
forward
excited
and
about.
on. Lots of, I don't pay that much attention to Halo.
Right.
So there are like certain games that I think, you know. Are we recording this? Yeah. We are? Oh, crap.
Yeah.
All right. So there are certain games that I think.
I told you that 20 minutes ago!
That's what I was doing back
That was 20 minutes
I thought we
ago.
were just, you know, like for their benefit. No,
Yeah.
we're on the internet. Oh, crap.
I know.
There are certain game series that I'm like, how can we even make a story about this? Like,
Then
I
you
bring
should-
it back to Super Mario, but
Yeah.
you go to the end of the level and that's it. There's no story there.
No, and I completely agree.
So I see a Halo movie, it's like, oh, people fighting each other. And
Right.
what is the story gonna be?
There's a lot of story to Halo.
Oh, it's sad.
Yeah, I come back to, like an artist saying, this is a story I want to tell out of the thing I was been inspired by versus a retelling of something that you know pretty well. And I guess, like to a certain degree, that's why we're all sick of origin stories that we've seen in movies. There's people that are just being inspired by playing video games because you can't avoid it anymore. It's not just those geeks that read comic books. It's like video games are in your house. They're on your phone. They're what you grew up with. So it's a part of culture. Yes, Kevin.
Of the recent movies that aren't adaptations of video games, but that incorporate video game-like elements, I want to hear you talk about them. For example, I was very struck by some of the choices in Edge of Tomorrow that relate closely to how video games operate. And it's not a video game movie, but in some ways it is actually a better video game movie than the movies based on video games. So can you talk about that?
No, I really liked Edge of Tomorrow. I know I'm the only one that saw it on this dais. And like, I remember, Dave, you were kind of annoyed because there was a saturation of it being like, this is the video game movie. This is video game movies done right, and it's I do agree, like absolutely, but I think it's just because they made a really good version of Groundhog Day that's the editor of that movie should win an Oscar because they take 5 or 6 what should be 5 or 6 scenes and reduce it into one scene. And that's why that movie works. It's just good narrative that relates to us and hits a lot of people on that level. I think that movie kind of is coincidentally a really good video game movie, but I don't.
Give credit also to the source material. Give credit also to the source material there originally, based on the Japanese novel from which it's derived. Consider, okay, you may have noticed in the last few years on Netflix, this movie that probably never starring, I think it was Gerard Butler and Michael C. Hall of Dexter. A movie, I think the movie's just called Gamer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Really?
It's directed by the Cranberry team.
The great Neville, or Neville Dean Taylor, and
Well, okay. Those of you who have seen it, to what degree does it actually incorporate the mechanics of video game in an honorific way that makes sense, rather than the movies of the past that have maybe merely exploited the trappings of how video games work? And I'm thinking like the movies in the 80s, Last Starfighter and stuff, that don't really give the audience they don't respect the audience enough to trust that they know how video games work, that it's a kind of magic. But I don't know. So someone tell me more about Gamer.
Gamer is a good film for showing what it feels like to live in a world where gaming is saturating our culture.
I heard it had the RoboCop-esque, the Paul Verhoeven social commentary.
In the world of the film Gamer, there are two big games that people participate in as humans. One of them is basically PlayStation Home, right? That's like people milling about, you know what I mean?
Like a Second Life.
Second Life kind of game. And then one of them is a gladiatorial combat game that people control, and it's criminals who are the ones who are actually enacting the combat on one another.
Okay.
The plot is like the film Gladiator, because someone who is a gladiator rebels against the system and fights back, right? So in some ways it's something we've already seen, but in other ways it's like, what does it actually feel like to live in a world where gaming has consequences? And I feel like that's where it's...
Yeah, I know none of us saw it, but Kevin, actually, did you see Existence?
I love that movie. That's a Cronenberg movie.
That was a Cronenberg, because that was supposed to have a big video game influence.
It does. It's the Anti-Matrix. It's from 1999.
Yeah.
1999. It's got, Jude Law and Jennifer Jason Leigh. And it's a lot of the ideas of the Matrix, but less spectacle-based and more about the kind of philosophical problems that would result from nested virtual reality.
Okay.
I recommend it. I don't.
Okay.
It's
I was
been
just
years since
curious.
I've seen it, but I liked it a lot.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop yelling because you guys.
No. That was good. Like that was one I hadn't seen.
Well, what it gets down to for me at this point, and I think what we've all been sort of dancing around is being respectful of your audience as opposed to being condescending toward them. I think it was telling earlier when you mentioned the Lone Ranger in the same context as Prince of Persia. Those are two movies that made huge ethnic casting gaffes. And I mean, blithely stood by their decisions in the face of this kind of criticism. And more than anything else, the hubris that is on display there. People like us see that as this corporation this is a product to them, and it shows a lack of respect toward their audience. It's just condescending to them. And I think what we have seen, a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, though it does very much conform to a certain template, it does not condescend to its audience. That's how it endears itself to us. And I think that was, in a way, sort of our guiding mission with X-Strike. Back then, we called it, video game movies done right, or by fans, for fans. But I think more than honoring the way in which we honored the source material, I think we were very cognizant of what an audience like us would be willing to buy into.
And the beautiful thing, and this is why, it was actually what I was listening to the fellow that might be hopefully doing the Metal Gear Solid movie, is because we've grown up with it, and when you make a movie, you should probably be making a movie that you want to watch. And what it boils down to is these guys who grew up with the games are making a movie that they want to watch, that respects the game, that does the things that they want to see expressed in a film. And by doing that, they care and add that much more to the art form and the film, and that's why I'm hopeful that, like, I know, like, I can almost guarantee that whether it's this batch or not, we're about to have the first great video game, like, film and probably search. I hope it's Warcraft. I'm not saying it's gonna be Warcraft, but.
Since we're talking about X-Drive for a minute, do you think
Sure.
it's easier to make a comedy video game parody than to make a serious adaptation of a video game franchise?
On a low budget scale, absolutely.
I
Like,
think regardless, you're going to run into that. Video games, by definition, there's something surreal about them.
I mean, because I've seen all of your movies.
Yes.
And a lot of the jokes are a wink and a nudge
Yeah.
towards the video game source material. If you're taking that source material seriously,
Right.
is it harder to get a quality product out of it?
It's hard to not get a laugh almost because video games are very self-aware and like especially I want to say what used to be the more foreign games, like the programming of Nintendo games used to be the gameplay first. So and then we figure out okay it's fucking Flummer and he's a fucking world mushroom yada yada yada. But the idea is that it feels good to jump. You know, so it's.
How do you convey it feels good to jump in a movie?
Yeah, no, and that's kind of why, and that's why, well, and that's why it's hard to adapt poetry, because that's sort of the same thing, it's just like, it feels good to hear these consonants pop in this sort of way, I suppose, versus, you know, it took time for stories that people wanted to see visually come out, I guess. We had, you know, whatever the fuck Gutenberg press came out until, you know, modern day to take books that should be adapted. You know, I don't think there's a great War and Peace out there. Go ahead.
I think if you were going to, on a very low budget, adapt something like a video game as a drama instead of comedy, I just think you need a group of people that maybe have a different skill set than we do. For a dramatic story to be taken seriously, if we were all like film act, if we were all dramatic actors, if we had all, you know, studied fucking Meisner technique in college, if that's where all of us were at, that might be the output of what we were doing. But for most of us, it was filmmaking and it was comedy.
And that's a lot of the video games that explore concepts that I feel would be interesting to a dramatic actor, explore them in a way that is very specific to video games, like something like Journey or something that wants to be introspective is going to do it through the medium. And then how do you convey that in a film? You don't need to. You would make your own introspective movie versus adapting a movie that feels good to walk in the sand and to have people pop in and out. And that's why it's kind of a hard medium to pick and choose, I suppose.
I've got a very limited selection of references, so we're going back to Mario.
Okay.
But
yes,
Mario Brothers the movie, comedy.
Yes.
It was successful on certain levels. Mortal Kombat, Final Fantasy: The Spirit Within. Every video game adaptation that is dramatic seems to just fail.
What's wrong with Mortal Kombat?
Mortal Kombat, the first movie,
It can't be as a comedy, but it's
It's a
not.
great martial arts film.
it's.
Enter the Dragon. It is like what do you say?
Personally, going back to Mortal Kombat, the first one is still better than a lot of video game movies. I don't think it's as good as people like to put it up to because I think it's kind of like well, it is fucked up.
But you know, it's based on Mortal Kombat here. Like that's the thing. It's not.
And I feel before Mortal Kombat, because Mortal Kombat grew to have a very intricate story, but not when that movie came out.
Okay, so getting back to like the source material, Mortal Kombat, Super Mario, they're not very story-driven. It's get to the end or it's beat that guy up. But as a comedy with Super Mario, it kind of works. With Mortal Kombat, it still seems like we can't take it seriously.
So a couple of years ago, I had this great idea for a Super Mario Brothers dramatic short film, where it would be a Don Quixote in modern Brooklyn. essentially. I'm struggling to find where is the pathos in Super Mario Brothers, and the pathos is if none of it is real, if Mario is only a hero in his own mind. And so I was going to have like a prostitute in Brooklyn be princess that he believes is Princess Peach, but the thing is, I knew that we couldn't do it just us. I knew that if we were going to do that, we would have to cast real actors. We'd have to cast actors with the look that were actually age appropriate to sell the drama. If an audience is going to buy the pathos, you want to believe that these are real people and not just us douchebags sticking around.
Now, you say to buy the pathos, and you had this big setup. Now, one, are you saying that this is Mario Brothers, the movie, when you would make this movie? Do you want people to know the influence? Do you want it to be Roxanne? Do you want it to be so you want to call it like Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
Right off. So you don't want it to be like,
Super Mario Brothers. And then
That's kind of like Don Quixote, the greatest Mario.
Well, no, I'm not.
Ever lived.
I don't want I really like this discussion wise. I'm not trying to kill like your energy, but the way you say it, like if you call that Mario Brothers, you're making a comedy. Like if you do this super dramatic movie that's super dramatically interpreting. Shut up. Mario Brothers like that, I think as an audience member, I would automatically be laughing at these things that are super dramatic from this game that's hilarious versus a movie that wants to be taken seriously.
No, sorry.
No?
I was moving my knee around the leg of the
Oh, okay.
And I made a sound
I think you sell that as just a subversion of expectation.
Okay.
It's the tale of you title your movie about a failed magician, you title it The Great Magician.
Okay.
Is all. You know, the movie about a failed Mickey Rourke is a failed wrestler. He's the wrestler, but he's pathetic.
The irony of the title.
Exactly. Yeah, it is the Super Mario Brothers, and you go in there expecting it's action and bright, colorful, but it's a complete subversion of expectation.
Okay. No, I was just clarifying to go back to the ease of comedy for that sake. Yeah.
I mean, what's so grand about the Grand Budapest Hotel? What's so grand about it?
It's on the signs.
Actually, it's immaculate. So.
Yeah. God damn it, you're just making me want to go watch that fucking movie. That's fair.
Is this a place to just pitch video game movie ideas?
Yeah,
No, because it actually kind of works in. So like, obviously we think of Zelda as being very dramatic, but I wonder if it would work as a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Link is just an unwitting hero and all this stuff. He doesn't take any of the situations he's in seriously.
Mm-hmm.
He only fights when he has like no other options. He's just very sarcastic.
Okay.
I think that we could turn that into a comedy.
Are you trying to make yourself cast as Link in a Zelda movie?
Your company is over, and I don't think I can make any connections in Hollywood at this point. So no, I just want to see.
Yeah, but the show that we cast you as Lincoln is still going.
Really?
Yeah, we're still doing.
Can I reprise my role?
I would love to.
All
Yeah,
right, excellent.
absolutely. No, that's funny. Would you? Did you want Link to talk? I guess is the big question.
No, absolutely. Like I want him to be sarcastic to every.
You know, I hate to be like they made a cartoon about this.
I'm aware of that show.
Yeah.
No, I want a kind of like a cynical 14-year-old Link.
Oh.
Like, he's from the 21st century, and he just every problem he comes across, he handles with a particularly bad attitude.
Okay.
And I think we could turn, Link's altruism into something hilarious.
I do like the idea, and I guess this is sort of coming to some whatever, of just like him like being so blasé about that exploration angle of Zelda, of just like him being, you're saying from the 21st century, so he's a child with all these technologies and things that he'd be distracted by, but he has this huge world to explore that's magnificent. He's not noticing, he's looking at his fucking phone while he runs into an rock or something. Yeah.
As you do.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
That's funny to me.
I don't know if I'm making this up, but
Sure.
I feel like at some point in Extra Studios Life, somebody pitched me on the idea of a Zelda movie where like Link traveled through time and Epona was a motorcycle.
I think that's how should I.
That sounds
I feel like somebody told me that at some point.
Yeah. No, we had a pitch. We had a summary.
Yeah, because his bombs were C4 or something.
Something like that. Yeah, like it was Link brought into modern times, and I don't know. I'm sure Ganondorf was the head of like an evil corporation or something like that. But the thing I remember is that his horse was a motorcycle.
I think that there's a dramatic Zelda movie that works. I mean, the dramatic Zelda movie that I would want to see, I don't think would, A, would have trouble getting greenlit, and B, would have trouble being a box office success. The movie that I want to see is a young boy facing mortal danger, and it being taken very seriously. I want to see Asa Butterfeld, only not in an Ender's Game scenario, not with something stern and drawn music in war, but just a lone boy thrust into mortal peril and struggling to overcome it and being afraid. But I don't think that movie sells. I think that would be a beautiful movie, but I don't think it sells.
As long as we're pitching Zelda movies, here's how I'd go about it.
You love Zelda too, right?
Yeah, I like it. It's
Okay.
alright. It's not
Go
like
ahead.
my top 10.
Okay. Now your top 10 Zelda.
Yeah. Inside joke. Here's what I'd do. It's one of the retellings. We're balancing power, wisdom, and courage. Wisdom and courage have control of the land. Link is an abusive knight, full-grown knight, who goes around working for Princess Zelda, who is dominating, absolutely overpowering her people through taxes and laws. And the only person who can stand up to them is this one young boy from a Gerudo village named Ganondorf, who has to go on a quest to get the last Triforce piece of power so that he actually has the power to overcome the people who have been oppressing him. And then that would eventually corrupt him, because we know that we all know the backstory, so that would eventually corrupt Ganondorf to become the future villain throughout the rest of the series. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really like it.
What's called X-Men.
First class.
Yeah, I think. They should do a Legend of Zelda issue, just like the cartoons of live action and like Xena Warrior Princess, and just that kind of that era of action show.
Oh, the
TV.
Sam Raimi produced
Sam
New
Raimi.
Zealand TV shows.
Yeah.
Young Hercules.
That's like my solution to every single fantasy video game. Just make it
That's
like Hercules.
It's like it's Game of Thrones, only it's Moonlight.
Right. Yeah. But and I feel like that's the best question we've gotten in a while, or just talking about the comedy edge of that, because it's really hard to not have a little tongue-in-cheek in any of these retellings. Because it's honestly the easy way out, in a way, to just give this little wink of, yeah, we know where it's from, and just be like, okay, that gives us a little room, just like, it could be a little wonky, it's a video game, and it's a cop-out. Yeah, no, I think it's a horrible thing to just to kind of half go in, sort of thing, and I'm gonna abandon this
You
analogy.
really hedge your bets to broaden it to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, sure.
And that's condescending.
But then it's like you make it too serious, and then if you try to slip in references, you run the risk of people rolling their eyes, or oh, that's how they did that movie, or they are going too serious. It's a fine line.
Tell me if this is the analogy I was abandoning was saying the way DC treated something like Green Lantern, where they didn't take it serious enough.
So loud in here.
I know.
Yeah.
But a movie like Green Lantern, where even from the trailers, I could tell they didn't respect the source. They didn't treat it serious enough, and they had enough wink nudge of just it's a comic book movie. It can do what it wants. It's gonna be weird because it's a comic book movie.
It says we don't care.
Yeah.
It says we know we'll sell tickets.
Right. We know you're gonna go to this movie because you know the words green and lantern. Right.
It shows a patent disrespect for the audience that you are ostensibly making this movie for.
And
that's why. That's why.
Like from those trailers, I still get, and I know Hal Jordan has a sense of humor. Don't get me wrong, but I took it as that movie was trying too hard to be funny, quote unquote, rather than to tell a serious based novella.
Okay, so can a video game movie just simply be a retelling, or do we feel it needs to add something to the franchise? Because
I always feel like it should add something.
Okay,
But the second
I
it goes
see-
to another medium, I think it should add something there.
Beyond Good and Evil for PlayStation 2 and Xbox, I think that would make a fantastic movie, even though it was kind of a shitty video game to play.
I like it.
Plot, like if you
There was a sum of the parts game, but go ahead. Some of the parts.
No, the controls were wonky, etc. But as a story that you could fit into a 2-hour movie, that's a really cool idea, a really cool world, in a really fun place. But I don't know if a movie can add to that.
That's the thing. Like to me, if you retold that story exactly as it was in the video game, in a film, it's not going to be as good. Again, why would I watch the movie versus play the game if it's not as good, if not better, or show me something different about that story?
I'm not sure I can pitch you an idea that would
Yeah.
make you want to make this
No,
movie. But
absolutely.
somebody made The Great Gatsby recently,
Yeah.
and you know,
who's your director for Beyond Good and Evil?
Oh,
Who can make that movie the way you want?
ask me
Peter
those sorts of
Jackson.
questions. I
And-
can't even name a director. Like, who
Yeah.
did Batman? I don't know.
Right.
Fuck it. Just make that movie.
To me,
Spielberg. Okay, yeah, let's do Spielberg's Beyond Good and Evil. That's fine with me.
I'm
George
always-
Lucas, he's a director, right?
well, here's the
Katy
thing.
Perry.
Peter Jackson loves Beyond Good and Evil. Like this was one of the big when you were realizing that adults like video games and people that make movies like video games.
That's why he had the insult to the Strong King.
Yep. And he obviously respected the story, but didn't think that he could do anything different with it, I guess. And that's still.
I guess I just want to see
yeah.
those wonky controls taken out
Well,
of the
and-
game, so make
yeah.
a movie and I wouldn't even have to play.
No, absolutely, and to me personally, that's going beyond the. And again, I mentioned earlier when you first see that live action adaptation, it's a great feeling. It's just like, oh, that's awesome to see that thing that I love told in a different way, but it has to go beyond that feeling because you're gonna watch that for 2 hours. You know what I mean? You have to kind of touch base with that, and then it's going to do something.
Okay, but
There.
Beyond Good and Evil is the kind of game where the story is its strength. That is really
Yeah.
what makes that game playable.
Right.
Why not just boil it down into what it is best at, which is the story,
Right.
by filming it and adding, computer-generated graphics and all that fun stuff, make it bright and green.
Well, I think taking Beyond Good and Evil, the way I would see why that would be a good film is because you could take things like a talking pig and through amazing cinematography, also, through the script, through some adaptations, make that such a believable character that you're like, that is a talking pig, but it's very relatable, and you don't have that disconnect of playing the video game and going, oh, okay, it's another, it's created by pixels and having that disconnect of realism versus, seeing the thing and making it such a strong character that you care.
It's on Andy Serkis playing the
Yeah, it has to be Andy Serkis. Absolutely. And I guess that's one way that the adaptations can change things simply of just adding that level of realism that you're not going to get through video game, especially older.
I think Jane works really well as an animated character. I almost shudder to think of a live actress putting on that costume with the green lipstick and the green hair and it working. Her delivery would have to change. So much about that character would, I think, inherently have to
Does she have
change.
to have green hair? Could she have a green headband? We've seen, transformations of characters, X-Men, they aren't quite decked out in spandex. maybe it's just my desire to see that game,
Yeah.
which was so underappreciated as a game, find an audience.
I see where.
I have to say something about Jen.
Alright.
There's a lot about her body size and her body type that is very infantilized. There's like, I never got the sense that she was a completely developed, like, full woman. And because of, you're right, because of that, though, because of that, spoilers, like any of that corruption that was toward the end, that was a lot more significant.
See, to me, like, I love Jade in the game as, you know, she's always the example of non-sexualized female protagonist, a strong female protagonist. And I think if a smart director did it, they would do it in the same way that people kind of interpreted Marvel costumes, where it's just kind of like, it's something a little unbelievable because it's a video game that needs that quick, you know, visual hook of the green lipstick, and I don't know if it was quite green hair, it was kind of black hair.
No, I think it's just
it was black hair.
It's
But
black hair.
what the green motif, and kind of make that a little more subtle. But character-wise, you would have to be very careful. Like, and I'm not sure about Beyond Good and Evil in general, but again, the way you tell a film story in two hours versus a video game story in 10, you're gonna miss so much of that subtlety, and you have to be really good to tell a personal story. I feel like.
Could we make Commander What's-His-Face like a love interest and solve that problem? You know, like, okay, that's our A plot, and the revolution is our B plot.
Well, I guess like...
I'm still just pitching ideas.
I know. Like,
What's the table about again?
All right, it's time to wrap this up.
all right.
Now I have it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's almost one.
You know what, to wrap it up, though. Okay, so obviously I've been the voice of optimism because I feel even if it's not this rash, like it's just inevitable that we're gonna have a good adaptation because everyone is influenced by great fucking games and smart people are out there, whether they're the majority or the auteurs. And yes, yeah. You want to talk?
About
Yes.
Adventure Time for 30 seconds.
Adventure Time, yeah.
It's only 12 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
It's heavily influenced by video games,
Sure.
video game tropes.
Yeah.
And it has got quite a popular following.
Yeah.
So I feel like, at the very least, we're growing the audience. They're only 12 right now, but soon they will be in the money spending market, and then we will make that video game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, kids, Dave has told me about his daughter just knowing, you know, what Minecraft is and being drawn to these things. Like, it's part of the culture. There's no way around, like, some form of the big video games influencing you. And, you know, people that want to tell artistic stories are making art, and they get promoted, and they're making good work. Like, Peter Jackson is a gamer. I hate to tell people, like, a lot of the filmmakers you watch are big gamers. Sam Raimi is a big gamer. John Carpenter, huge gamer, like, very big proponent of games. It's Kevin Conroy or Karen Carpenter? Yeah, big gamer. It's just going to happen. Whether it has the comic book hold or not, it's an art form that people are influenced by. Plain and simple. Like, it works its way in whether they know it or not. So there are stories that people want to retell and can retell in clever ways. So yeah.
So yeah, hopefully someone will make a good movie eventually, but it won't be us.
Well, we had to shut down to make room.
Right, yes.
To pick up the slack.
Yeah, exactly. It's your turn now, Hollywood.
Extra had to die so Hollywood could live.
The Hollywood video game movies that have come out in the last 6 years has been a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Like, beyond when we started joke. Like, because they were like the Resident Evils and Prince of Persia and everything we listed. And Alone in the Dark, and all these things have that fucking heavy stigma of video game movie over their head because people are trying to make a quick grab. And that's done. It's the way that comic book movies were quote unquote influenced by the last 2 of the 4 90s Batman movies, like stuff like Spawn. It's just like people eventually went, I hated those movies, I want to make a good one, and then did.
All right, thanks for coming out.
Yep. We're wrapping up. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for not questioning me and for sitting on the side of the table. I appreciate it.